There are times when you want to shoot long exposures, but you don't have your ND filters with you, or you may just not own any ND filters. But that doesn't mean that you can't create long exposure images. And there is a way that you can do this by shooting normal exposures and then merging them together in Photoshop to create that kind of big stopper look and feel. So you need about 10 shots that you can then merge together, and the frequency at which those images need to be taken depends on the speed of the movement. So if you're shooting a landscape or a cityscape and you want to blur the clouds but they're not moving that quickly, you may need to take a shot every 10 seconds, 30 seconds, every minute, or every couple of minutes. But if you're shooting a subject like the waterfall here, where the movement is fast and consistent, you can just fire them off one after the other. So what we have here is the finished result. And if I just turn off this layer here, you'll see an original exposure that was taken at 1/5 of a second. So because it's fast moving water, it still looks dynamic, but by merging 10 exposures together, we can very easily make it look like a big stopper or a less strong ND filter was used. So let's take a look at how to do this. So here we are in Lightroom, and I have my first image of a series of 10, which you can see here are marked by stars. So I've already done all of the processing, so I'm just going to hold down Shift, click on the last image, and then hit the sync button and make sure that everything is checked, and then synchronize all of those images. And then all that we need to do now is export those into a folder on our desktop. So I've already got that set up here, and I'm exporting them as JPEGs at their full resolution. And just make sure that with post-processing, after export, it says do nothing. So I've already exported these, so I'm going to hit cancel at this point. You can, of course, export other file types, but for the sake of speed in a tutorial, a JPEG works much quicker. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and what we just need to do is go to File, Scripts, and load files into Stack. So I'm going to change Use from Files to Folder, and then I can locate that folder that I saved before, and there we go. So once that pulls through, those exposures will show here. And I'm just going to click on Attempt to automatically align source images. So if there was any movement at all between the individual exposures, Photoshop will account for that and align them for me. So there we have our different exposures loaded in as layers, and you'll see there at the edge of the image that there is some alignment that's gone on. So we just need to crop the outside of that. So just make sure that the ratio is set to original ratio, and then if you drag over the whole image, then I'm going to hold down the Alt key, so that would be Option on a Mac, and then dragging inwards, it just centers the crop. Now I would recommend taking a lot more care, zooming in, making sure you're only cropping out the alignment at the edges, but I'm just doing that quickly and I have nice clean edges now. So the bottom shot is selected automatically, so if it's not, just left mouse click on it and then hit Control and J, or that would be Command and J on a Mac. So I just want to have this extra layer at the bottom. That will all make sense in a few moments. So then hold down the Shift key and click on the top layer so that we have 10 layers or 10 images all selected. Right click on there and select Convert to Smart Object. And then what we need to do now is go to Layer, Smart Object, Stack Mode, and then choose Median. So this is going to change the way that those layers behave together, and it's this that creates the long exposure effect. So there you'll immediately see that we have achieved that long exposure effect on the water. Now what can sometimes happen, it doesn't always happen, but it's something you have to be aware of, is that during this merging process the sharper areas can sometimes lose a bit of sharpness. Now you can of course zoom in and check this and compare between a before and after, but if you do see any kind of shift in the amount of sharpness, you can just add a layer mask to this top layer, then hit B on the keyboard to activate the brush tool, D just to make sure the default palette colors of black and white are selected, and if black is in the background as it is here, just hit X to bring it into the foreground. And then you can use the left and right square bracket keys to change the brush size. So left is smaller, right is larger, and then just paint over the areas that should be sharp. So just make sure that the opacity and flow is set to 100% and use a brush with about a 50% edge hardness. So you can set that in here from this menu. And then once that's done, you have your fake big stopper or long exposure shot that was created using normal exposures.